Okay, we're going to do number 17 now. 17 states a group of artists has decided to produce hand-drawn cards for Valentine's Day. Ink drawings and watercolor cards will be made. A maximum of 120 hours will be spent on time of an ink drawing, on preparation of the cards, and a maximum of 60 hours will be spent on packaging. The prep time of an ink drawing is 0.3 hours, and the prep time for a watercolor card is 0.5 hours. The packaging time for both types of cards is 0.2 hours. Graph the feasible region for these constraints, then find the coordinates of the vertices. So we're going to let x, now let's see here. We're going to let x represent the number of ink drawings and we're going to let y represent the number of watercolor drawings. Okay. First of all, we know that both the number of watercolor drawings and the number of ink drawings are both going to be greater than or equal to 0. In other words, they're not going to be negative numbers. All right, so that's going to be the first two inequalities that we have. X is greater than or equal to 0, and y is greater than or equal to 0. All right. Now, there are two inequalities that we're going to focus on. One is going to be about the prep inequality. We're also going to have a packaging inequality. Okay? So I'm going to create two rows, and we're going to have an X column and a Y column. Okay? Now, for preparation, it states here the prep time of an ink drawing is 0.3 hours. So I'm going to go 0.3x. That represents the total amount of time spent for ink drawings. And I have, for the prep time for a watercolored card is 0.5 hours. So that's going to be 0.5y. That represents the total amount of time. Think about this. If I had 2 watercolors, it's going to be an hour. If I have 4, it's going to be 2 hours. You multiply the number of drawings times the amount of time per drawing, which in this case is half an hour. This is 0.3 hours. Okay? So together, if I add those together, now it says here the total amount of time, it can be a maximum of 120 hours. It can be less than that. So these two times are going to have to be less than or equal to 120. Okay? Likewise, for the packaging for both types of cards is 0.2 hours. So that's going to be 0.2x. That's the total amount of time for packaging the ink cards. Here is my 0.2y. That's the total amount of time for my watercolor packaging. And the maximum amount is 60 hours. I think in there 60 hours will be spent on packaging, so that's going to be 60. So those are my 4 inequalities. I have, okay, so we have x is greater than 0, y is greater than or equal to 0. We have a prep, which I'm going to color that one, make that red, and we'll go with kind of a dark green for the packaging. Okay, so let's draw this graph. All right, so all right, if I were to draw a line now, let's go ahead and draw an XY line. Makes that a little thicker. this way. Okay. All right. So this is my x-axis. This is my y-axis here. All right. The fact that x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is greater than or equal to 0 means we're in quadrant 1 in my in terms of a coordinate plane. All right, that's a 1 there. All right. So let's take a look at let x be 0, let y be 0 for each of these. So if I let x be 0 right here for this inequality, so if I let x be 0, okay, so that eliminates this term right here, and I go, gee, so 0.5y equals 120. So if I divide 120 by 0.5, then y is going to be 240. So that means one point is going to be 0, 240. And if I let y be 0, so if I take and put 0 in for y here, 0.5 times 0 is 0. So now I have 0.3x equals 120. If I go 120 divided by 0.3, if I go 120 divided by 0.3, I get 400. So my other point here is 400, 0. So that's the 2 points that are going to determine the line for prep. Let's do the same thing for packaging. Here, now, if I let x be 0, let's see, 60 divided by 0.2 is 300. And if I let y be 0, that's going to be 300. All right? So let's go ahead and draw these lines. Now, looking here, if I make my scale, here's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and this is 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. Okay, so let's put these out here. So there's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. Do the same thing here. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600.